Hello, in this tutorial, I want to show you how I created this poster. It's a mock poster. You can see it's got the silhouette of a bear, and these are the layers over here. So we'll go and start with a brand new canvas. Let me just close this file. And in fact, before we start with a new canvas, let me open up an image that has been inspirational for me in terms of the colors that I use. It's this vintage poster, Saint Etienne, and I love the colors. So I want to show you how to sample these colors and create your own swatches in Photoshop. So the first thing that you do is you open up the image that you like, and then you go to the image menu and go down to mode, and then change it from RGB to index color. Now, you have a choice here of how many colors you want to sample from the poster. 256 is the maximum, but you can actually say, give me the top 10 colors, and then Photoshop will decide which are the 10 dominant colors. But I'm going to leave it at 256 and click OK. So once you've done that, you then go back to the same place to image and mode, but this time you choose color table. And these are the 256 colors that have been sampled from that poster. Pretty good, isn't it? And then what you do is you click on save, because you want to save this color table and then use it later as a swatch. So you click on save, and I'll just give it a name, something like vintage palette. And I'm going to save it as the default is color table ACT. So think of Canberra. Click on save, and then we can close that. Let me just cancel that, close the poster, no need to save. And now let's create a new canvas for our mock movie poster. So I'm going to click on new. Just to save time, I'll make it A5 in size, A5 tall, and then I'll change the background color to a, let me just get rid of that window, to a off-white, like a gray, soft gray. And then click on create. And there's our brand new canvas, A5 in size, with the background being gray. Now let's have a look if that swatch thing worked. When you go to the swatch palette, and you can find it under window, there it is, swatches. You can then, if you want to load that new vintage color palette, you go to the pop-up menu, and there it is, import swatches. And of course, you have to remember where you put it. Now, mine's in the picture folder, and the reason there's nothing showing is because I need to tell it it's the ACT color table. And then it comes up. So that's the little icon. And when you click on load, it loads it into your swatch palette window. And then if you open it up, there's those lovely colors that were sampled from that poster. So that's now ready for me to use. Okay, so what to do first? All right, well, the first thing I want to do is create that oil painting landscape with the mountains. And so for that, I will create a new layer. There you go, new layer. I'll call it Mountain 1. And click OK. So the way I created those mountains is I actually used the lasso tool with a feather of 0. And then I just randomly pressed and dragged my mouse and drew this rugged mountain range. And then when I got to the bottom, I just went all the way around the canvas and back to the start. And there's my selected area. And then I filled that with a color from my vintage palette. So let me just choose a purple. And the shortcut is Alt backspace to fill it. Oh, hang on. I did something wrong then, sorry. Let me just undo that. What happened there? What happened there? Let me just see why that didn't work. Redo. Yep, okay, I've got the color. Yes, that's correct. So I should be able to go Alt and backspace. Ah, that is weird. It didn't work before. Okay, so I filled it with the color, and then I deselect Control D on a PC or Command D on a Mac, And then I chose a special wet brush, and I'll just show you which one I've chosen. If you go to your brush palette, you've got the general dry and wet brushes. The one that I've been playing around with lately is the Kiehl's Real Oils Round Flex Wet Brush. And when you choose that, you get all these options up here in the option bar. So you can have different types of wetness, if you like. You can also customize these different areas. So we're just going to leave that for now, just as it is. And then what I'll do is when I start to paint within this shape, I want to make sure that it doesn't go outside of the shape. So I'm just going to lock that layer. This is the first lock. It stands for Lock Transparent Pixels. And let me choose a pinky color, something like that. And let's see what happens when I start painting. Oh, interesting. So you can kind of see it mimics that oil painting brush stroke. So I'm just going to do something really rough and ready, just with that pink. Now to save time, I'll just make the brush a bit bigger. I'm just using the square brackets on my keyboard. And you can see I'm making the brush a little bit bigger, just to save a bit of time. And then what I might do right now is I might just bring the flow down. Now the flow controls how thick the paint comes out. So if I bring the flow right down, it'll come out a lot slower and less dense. So you can have more subtle areas. Now I'll just choose another color because I like mixing my colors. Let's go for this little light purple here. I'll make the brush a bit smaller. In fact, let's go lighter than that, because we want to make it look as if the sun is hitting some of those peaks. So, and normally I would spend maybe 10, 20 minutes on this mountain range just to give it kind of the definition that it needs. But yeah, I like this little oil painting brush. Okay. All right. So again, once you've got some paint down, you can even hold down the Alt key or the Option key, and that brings up the eyedropper, and you can sample a color that's already there. And that's great for blending. So if I want to sample this pink, I can blend it into that lighter area, and the same up here. And it becomes a bit smoother. So I want to sample that purple. You can see that's blending it a bit better. Cool. All right, well, I'm happy with that. So that's my first mountain. Let's create a new layer, and we'll call this one mountain number 2. And that will sit on top of the first mountain. Right, now, again, back to the lasso tool. And this time I will draw a different shape, okay? And if you make a mistake, you can always start again. In fact, I don't really like that shape, so let's start again. All right, that's good. All right, so all the way back to the bottom. And once again, we want to choose a base color to fill it. So I'm just going to choose, let's go into the blues now, that blue there. And what I should be able to do is go Alt and backspace, and that'll fill it with the base color. And then I can lock it like I did before, go back to my paintbrush, and notice because I've chosen that oil paint brush, Photoshop knows that it's actually a mixer brush. So over here, it's gone from the standard brush tool to the mixer brush tool. All right, and let's start mixing some of these lovely blues, turquoises. Okay, well, that one's not working, so I don't know what happened there. Oh yeah, the flow's too low. So let's bring the flow back up. Let's just choose, yeah, we'll go into this area here, maybe the greens. Okay, that's better. So it's important that you can actually see the color that you're painting. All right, so again, a few rough brush strokes, get the mountain peak happening. I'm just going back and forth with my mouse. You can, of course, use a tablet and a pen. That will be a lot more effective. But for now, I'm just using a mouse, and just to get some definition in that shape. And I'll go into the darker areas now. I might just stick on this this darker black area. Okay, cool. Yep, that's what I want. So down the bottom, it's going to be a lot darker because I'm going to put some trees in the way. Some nice forest trees. All right, so again, if I had more time, I would make it look a bit prettier. But for now, that'll do. Let's just go in a bit more blue. if I want to be radical, I can pick up some yellows and warmer colors. In fact, I might do that. Let's go down to this range. How great is this vintage color palette? So I might just bring the flow down now, because I'm going to put in some of those lovely warmer colors now. There we go. And a couple of oranges here and there. Great. And then just to get a few highlights at the top of the mountain, let's get in some of the lighter color. And we're done. All right, so again, I could spend more time. I could do the old Option Alt key trick where you click with the eyedropper and you can mix some of those colors so they blend in a bit better. In fact, I'll just do a little bit more here, a bit more blending, but that's fine. All right, good. Okay, and I might just do a little bit more darker over here because I'm going to put in some trees in front of that. So I want that to be a little bit darker. Cool. All right, so now we come to the trees. And for this, I will go and create a new layer. And obviously I'm gonna call it trees. And this is where I'm gonna use the mirror image. Let me just deselect that. I should have deselected it before. I don't know why I didn't. All right, so the trees, let me just hide the mountains for now. And I'll just show you this wonderful feature in Photoshop called the mirror image tool. So if I go now back, you have to do this with a normal brush. Doesn't like the wet brushes. So I'm just going to go back and choose a hard round brush with, let's just see, why hasn't that changed? Oh yeah, sorry, brush tool. Yeah. Go back to the brush tool, choose a hard round brush and make sure the opacity is on 100%. All right, so now we're ready for the mirror image tool. Now over here on the far right hand side of your options bar, there is a symmetry option. This is like a mirror image tool. So you can actually make lots of special effects with this. I'll just demonstrate some of them. The vertical one is your standard mirror image. So if you activate vertical and go back to your brush tool, if you start from the center line and draw outwards, you get a mirror image. So that's pretty good. I'll just undo that. The next one is horizontal. That works the other way, of course. So back to your brush tool, and that's basically top and bottom. Undo, Control Z, and then we keep going down the list. I'll just take you down to radial. I like radial because you can actually have a number of different segments. I'll take it to the maximum, which is 12. Now with this one, back to the brush tool, if I draw a straight line from the center point upwards, and I'll hold down the Shift key to make sure it stays straight. So line up my mouse, hold down the Shift key, press and drag up. Look at that. Fantastic. Now, the other thing you can do is when you finish drawing one layer, and I'll just do this quickly, go to the Move tool, and there is your symmetry radial sunburst. If you duplicate that layer, so you can go up here and choose Duplicate, and then you go Control or Command T, you can hold down the Shift key and rotate it 15 degrees. And then you've got this lovely Japanese flag symmetrical sunburst. So that's pretty good. Now, we don't want that, of course. I'm just going to delete that layer. I'll just press the Delete key on my keyboard. And I'll press, yeah, with this one, I might just delete that as well and create a new layer all over again. I got ahead of myself then, so sorry. So let me just call this trees again. I'll just show you one more trick with that lovely symmetry tool. So if we go back here to the mandala and go all the way to maximum, which is 10. Now watch this, this is amazing. I'll make the brush size a bit smaller just for greater effect. Now, if I start from the center and draw the letter C, watch what happens. So I'm just going to draw the letter C like that. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Here we go. And back to the middle. Now it's going to take a little while to catch up. In fact, I could have done the line thickness should have been thinner. But isn't that amazing? All right, so let's undo that and stop this madness. and go back to the first one, which is the vertical one, because I want to draw a tree, don't I? All right, so starting from the top, I'm just going to go and do just a rough shape of a tree. Okay, very good. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then there's the trunk. Good. So once you've got your tree shape, you can fill it with the color. And I might just use the paint bucket for that, which lives over here. And I'll just click in the middle. And I'll just tidy up some of those areas that you can see that didn't fill in properly. Whoops, I'm back on the symmetry tool. Hang on. Let's switch that off. Make sure you switch it off when you finish using it, which will take you back to normal mode. So I'm just going to quickly just fix up these areas. In fact, I could have left the symmetry tool on because it would have painted the other side for me as I go around, but that's okay. This won't take long. And I'll just make my black shape finished. There you go. No little white lines showing. Cool. Now, what I can do at this point is I can go straight to the filter menu, choose liquify. That'll bring up this special window. And then I can distress the tree even more. So I can actually, with my mouse, make the cursor a bit smaller. I can do things like that. Just bring out some of those ferns. It just depends on how much time you have. But yeah, I'm just going to just finish it off here. I'm not going to worry too much about doing it perfect because we haven't got that much time. But yeah, you can spend a little bit of time making that tree look perfect. Let's just go back to full view. It's a bit crappy, but that'll do. So once you've got one tree, you can then duplicate that layer, and the shortcut is Control-J or Command-J on a Mac. And then with that duplicate tree, you can move it around. Yes, you can move it. You can also transform it, which is Control-T or Command-T. And then when you go to transform, you can resize it. You can also right-click within that transform window and do other things like distort it and warp it. I might just warp it. Let me just bend it that way a little bit. So it's kind of looking different to the other tree. And then what I might do as well is I'll flip it horizontal. And then I've got a tree that looks slightly different to the first one. And then I might duplicate that as well. The layer, I mean, Control-J. And then I'll move this over here. Control-T, flip it again, and warp it again, or skew it even. So let's just do something here like that. And just for effect, I might just do a free transform, which will allow me to make it smaller. But also, if I hold down the Shift key, I can distort it. Okay. And I might just make it a bit smaller. And that's it. So I've got my 3 trees. And when I put the mountains back on, I can select those 3 trees with the Shift key. I can then go Control-T or Command-T. It'll pick up the 3 trees. And then if I just drag one of the corner handles, I can position it where I want. And I might just plonk it. I might just plonk it down here. There you go. And then press Enter or Return to accept it. And there's my landscape. I've just got one more thing to do, and that's the sky. So again, the sky is going to go behind the mountain. So I want a new layer. I'll call this one Sky. And this is going to sit below the mountain layers. So right at the bottom of the stack. And once again, I go back to my lovely oil painting brush. In fact, in order of appearance, I should have done the sky before the trees. But let's go back to this one here, the oil painting brush. And for the sky, let me just start with a dark blue color. I mean, you can have any color you want. Let's just start with, say, this color here. And I want to fill the whole layer with that blue color to begin with. So I'm just going to go Alt Backspace. And then I can shift the colors and start painting with my big oil paint brush some texture onto the sky background. So I'm just going to go around like this. Maybe I'll make the brush really big just to save time. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see what I'm doing is just randomly adding some texture and make it a little bit darker at the top just for effect. And if I want something a little bit lighter, I can then choose to bring down the flow. And in fact, I can really bring down, what I should do is undo that, make the brush smaller, and then just behind that mountain, I can make that a bit lighter, as if there's a light source from behind the mountain. Okay, oops, that's a shocking stroke. I might even hold down the Alt key and do some blending. So the idea is that it's a real textured landscape. At any point, if I decide I want to muck around with the colors, I can select any layer and open up the hue and saturation. I can go Control U, and I've got the pink mountain. So I might decide, let's just see what happens if I move that around. And I might decide that it belongs in a different color scheme. So I like the fact that you can do this on the fly. So let's just say for some reason you want more purples. You can bring up the saturation or bring it down. In fact, I might stick with that range there. I think the oranges look better. Yeah, make it a bit more vibrant. And the same with the other layer, the forward mountain. I'll just go Control U and see if I can beef up the colors. Yeah, that's better. Just to make it a bit more dynamic. Okay, cool. All right, so now I've got my landscape. What I'll do is I will select all the layers that make up that landscape. And I'm going to do a little trick on the keyboard, which will create a new layer, a composite layer that merges all these layers together. And the keyboard shortcut for that is Control, Alt, and E. And there it is. It's a brand new layer with all the ones that were selected previously merged together. So that's important because I want to use that layer. I might actually just select all the layers again, including that new merge one, and I'll just put them into a folder. And the way you do that is go to the pop-up menu and choose New Group from Layers. And we'll just call this Mountains. So those lovely layers are nicely tucked away into that mountain folder, which I can now hide and introduce the next stage, which is creating that silhouette of the angry bear. Now for that, I want to go to File, and I want to bring in that photo of a bear, polar bear, by going to Place Embedded. You never want to choose Place Linked. Always Place Embedded, because then Photoshop will embed the photo into the canvas. All right, so now you can see it's come in as a smart object, meaning it's got these handles, and I need to now drag out the corners to make the bear picture a bit bigger. All right, so I'll start with that for now, and then I'll press Enter to accept it. So I've resized the photo. Now there's two ways you can select the bear. The easy way is to go to the magic wand area and choose any of these tools, doesn't matter which one. I'll choose the object selection tool and then click on Select Subject. And then Photoshop will have a look at the photo and say, oh, I think you mean the bear. And you can see it's done a pretty good job selecting the shape of the bear. That's the first way. The second way is to use the pen tool, which I'll do now. Let me just deselect that, Control D. The pen tool lives over here. And the idea with the pen tool is you press and drag and draw a line tracing the outline of the bear. And then when you've got that, you can turn it into a selection. So let's have a look at how that works. I'll zoom in. I'll start from, say, the top of the head. With the pen tool, a single click will give you a straight line, and a press and drag will give you a curved line. I'm sure you know that already. So I'm just going to undo that, Control Z, all the way back to the start. So you can see I've got curved lines here, so that's a press and drag. And then again, another curved line, another curved line. And then you get to the eye and you come straight down. So that's just a single click. The nose, look, it doesn't have to be perfect, bit of a curve. And then around the corner here, more curvature, and then a straight line down here. And I'll just do this really quickly. And then this part here, I can press and drag from here. Now, this is interesting. I'll just zoom in to show you what's going to happen next. I've got the curve happening. If I decide now I want to click here, watch what happens. I get this wonky line because Photoshop thinks I want to go in this direction. So I'll just undo that. In Photoshop, if you hold down the Alt key, you can actually press on the handle and change the direction. You can say, I want to go this way or this way. And then when you do your next move, Photoshop knows, oh, you want to go downhill, sorry. And then straight around and then straight down. Here's another curve, press and drag. And then another curve over here, press and drag. And then up here. Now, the other thing, if you hold down the Command key, you can move these. I'll show you later, actually, because I'm going to muck up my line. But yeah, the Command key lets you move the lines and readjust it after you finish drawing. So I'm just going to move back a bit, and I'll just finish this part really quickly because just conscious of time. I don't want this to be a long tutorial. All right, so let's go down into this area here. We'll go down to the body, and I'll just quickly go around here. I'm not really worried about the back so much. Okay, and then back over here, and then back to the start. Good. All right, so once you've got your pen path, this is called a path. I'll just zoom in again. You can hold down the control key or the Command key, and you can move these lines or these dots. So let me just show you. Oops, sorry. Hold down the Command key, and you can. Why isn't that working? Let me just try that again. All right, now here we go. That's what I wanted to show you. You can actually readjust the lines. So with the Command key, you can move these handles, or you can actually move the dots themselves, the points. And you can do some fine adjustments. So you can do a rough trace first, and then you can go back with the Command key pressed down, and you can adjust it. But let's say for now, I'm really happy with that. So let's zoom back. Now this is where at the top on your option bar, you can turn it into a shape. You can use it as a mask, or you can use it as a selection. I'm going to use it as a selection with no feather. I want 0 feather. So it's going to be a hard edge. And you can see the path has now turned into a selection. And with that, I can create a new layer. So I might just go down to the bottom here. That's the other shortcut. And while it's still selected, I can choose the color black and fill it. So Alt backspace will fill it. I can deselect it now, Control D, and I can hide that photo. I don't need the photo anymore. And then I zoom back out, Control 0, and it's time to get this ready for my landscape paste into. So I'm just going to go Control T on that bear silhouette. Actually, before I do that, let me add some teeth. This looks a bit too friendly now. So I'm just going to go in with a paintbrush tool, a hard round brush. Okay, so back up here to the general brushes, a hard round brush, 100% opacity. Okay, sorry, brush tool, hard round brush, 100% opacity. And I'll just zoom in a bit closer. There we go. And I'm just going to make my brush a bit smaller. And over here, I'm just going to paint a nice tooth. And then the same at the bottom here. Beautiful. And I might just add a more distinct ear to the top of the head. So again, make the brush a bit bigger, fill that in. And you'll see now the polar bear looks a little bit more like a grizzly bear, a bit more menacing. Actually, it looks like a lion. All right, so now I can go to the Move tool, Control or Command T. I can rotate it in this direction, and I can make it a lot bigger. Okay, there you go. Just rotate it a bit more. And press Enter or Return. So if I want to actually increase this area here, I can just go back to that hard round brush with the color black and make my brush nice and big. And then I can just add more black at the bottom here. Cool. I'll just fix that part up again. Sorry, I just mucked that up. All right, so now that I've got my black shape, all I've got to do is paste that landscape that you saw earlier inside the black shape. And the way I do that is I go back to my grouped layers. I select that merged one, the composite image, and I select all of it. Go to the select menu, choose select all or Control A. Then you copy it to the clipboard. You can then hide that mountain again. Go to your bear layer, and then if you hold down the Control key and click on the thumbnail for the bear layer, Photoshop will select the shape of the bear for you. So that's Control or Command click on the thumbnail, and then once you've got it selected, you go to Edit, Paste Special, and Paste Into. And there it is. You've got your landscape pasted inside your bear. And yes, you can go to the Move tool and you can move it around. There's not a lot of wriggle room. If that painting was a lot bigger, I could move it around a bit more, but look, that's fine for now. And then from there on, you can move the whole thing up, or you can resize it. If you're going to resize this now, just make sure you put a link between the mask of the bear and the landscape. If you don't put a link there and you try to move the whole thing, that's what's going to happen. But if you put a link, it means that you can then move the whole thing around. I'll just hide that silhouette because you don't need that. Yeah, see how it's moving all together now? So that makes it a lot easier to reposition it. Okay, so I might leave it at that. And in the next video, I'll show you how to do type. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.